Thank you for tuning in, viewers. It is Matthew Hickson, owner of Gamers Glorified, current head esports coach of Kish College, also known as 99 Cent McFury in the FGC community. I currently have today, we're doing my third interview of a new series called Gamers Glorified versus the FGC, where I am basically just interviewing local FGC players, just bringing out some content for us, make sure everybody's alive, doing well, answering some questions while we're going through this pandemic. Today, I will be interviewing a good friend of mine here who is currently active in the FGC community by the name of Phillip. Thank you so much for being my third guest of my mini-series I'm doing, Gamers Glorified versus the FGC. First off, I want to say Happy New Year's, man.
Thank you, man. You too. Happy New Year's.
Appreciate that, man. Any New Year's resolutions right off the top that you know of that you're going to do, if you do them at all?
I guess I would say, man, just everything I do to make sure I put 110%. That's just my goal. Whatever I do, 110%.
That's good. Plain and simple. Give 110%. That's awesome, man. I got a few myself as far as, growing my business, Gamers Glorified, doing everything I can to get the esports lounge that I'm working on up and running for the community. So I will keep you posted and all my followers posted on that as well. So, well, let's get started, man. Thanks for joining us, man. So first of all, let your viewers know right now what your current gamer tag is that you go through or use in the fighting game community, and let them know what's the story behind it, if there is one.
So my gamer tag right now is Juggernaut OG. Actually, let me make sure I say it correctly. Juggernaut space xOGx. The story behind that is just, the video. It's a popular video. I don't want to say the whole phrase, but the Juggernaut.
Sticks and stones will break my bones, but tags will never hurt me. Now get out of my way. You're violating my personal space.
Checking out B video, and me and my friend were joking about it, and I was like, man, you know what? I want that as a name. I want when people see me in a ranked match or whatever, they'll be like, hey, man, it's the Juggernaut. I want to hear that. And the Juggernaut in itself, I might be going a little bit too far, but the Juggernaut in itself is, once it starts moving, it never stops. So kind of like I was like, man,
once it starts moving, yep.
Yeah, so I was like, I want to take that and I want to take that and keep it going into the fighting game world. So
that's a good mindset to have, man. Especially in the fighting game community. You always want to look forward, and once you get going, you want to just trample and get past whoever's in your way that's trying to stop you. So It's a good motto to have, man. Good motto to have. So when did you decide that you wanted to start competing in fighting games?
I would say probably my freshman year of college. I was, the typical, man, I'm really good at fighting games. I take on anybody. And then I got humbled. And then I started to realize, I'm like, man, I actually liked it. It's a mind game. So I was like, I'm going to practice and I'm going to see how far I can go. So it's kind of like the moment that I understood that it was a mind piece. It's not just a video game. It's the understanding what the conditioning. It's so much that goes into it. So it's just it's kind of fun, man. You're learning things. You're practicing. You're meeting new people. So I just like the community and just the brain power that you have to use for it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Like a lot of people who aren't into fighting games, they don't understand the science behind it. They just look at it as just punching and kicking and blocking, but there's so much meat and potatoes behind it. There's a science behind everything that you do and why we're doing it. And you just have to experience that yourself, being part of the community. So absolutely, man, that's a really good state of mind to have. One that I would probably inspire every person in the fighting game community, or those who are trying to get into it, to kind of go that same route, look at the science behind it. And it's fun. It's actually fun. It really is, man. So how do you normally prepare for upcoming tournaments or majors? Like, what's your routine if you have one? Do you have a checklist you go off of? Do you just put your shoes on and grind it out? You know, what's your routine as far as right before you get to competing?
So what I like to do is I haven't really competed in a tournament in a while. I'm kind of training now, so that's kind of a good question. So what am I doing now to prepare myself for it? So a whole lot of high level sets. High level sets as in 10 matches. Usually a set is 10 matches. High level sets, it could be 20. You can go to 50. You know, just grinding it out, you know. The understanding of your character to make sure you're being as efficient as you can with your combos and stuff like that. So it's just grinding of make sure you know your character, and then make sure you're doing high level sets against characters that you know that you're not good against. So you're prepared for all different angles. And then you got to have chill time. You know, you don't have to grind I tell people, man, you don't have to grind 24 hours into the game. You can just mentally, what they call that stuff in boxing, like you have a imaginary enemy, and in your head you're formulating, and you're formulating exactly what you need to do. You can just sit down and just chill and just think about it. You know, you can sit down and watch somebody else play the game and think about what you would do in that scenario. So it's just take your time and do and just make sure that's my biggest. Just make sure you know your character, and once that, just let your brain take it over from there.
And then not knowing your character is also a good confidence booster as well, because when you know your character inside and out, mentally you can just tell yourself while you're competing, you know, just like, man, I got this. I know my character inside and out. I know what I should be doing. I know what I shouldn't be doing. I know what's punishable on block. I know what's not punishable on block. What's safe. You know the ins and outs. So that way you can initially try to control the situation in the match as best as you can with little risk, you know? So definitely, man, that's good stuff, man. Good stuff. Now, within the fighting game community scene, how do you feel? Because there's always improvements that we can do to become a stronger community. You know, how can we make the fighting game community scene, you know, better?
So I have two different angles in this. I have how to make it better internally, and then outside of people who don't play to kind of bring them in. So internally, I kind of want to say, man, you know, what I'm seeing is a whole lot of high-level players creating this sense of a list of who's good and who isn't, and what tools they don't have and what tools they do have. I don't necessarily like to go by that. Just because one person says something doesn't necessarily mean it's true. It could be a whole lot of undiscovered things that you don't know. If you like the character, play the character. You know, make it your character. Make it the character that you're known for. You know, so I just think that high to low level players, the discouragement of like a tier list and stuff like that. I think it not so. I don't want it to be as stressed as in, man, this is a 7-3 matchup. You shouldn't play it at all. You know, maybe there's a solution that only you can find out if you grind a matchup, you know?
And tier lists are like opinion based in my opinion. You know, like you said, the 7-3 matchup. Maybe it's 7-3 for you, but for me, it's 10-0. You know what I'm saying? So, and then when you make that tier list, you're kind of trying to control the narrative of other players.
Yeah.
You know? So that's why I really don't pay attention to tier lists at all. I'll do it for entertainment purposes, for conversational purposes, but from a competitive standpoint, I don't really pay attention to that. Especially with updates now, how they nerf and buff so many things. You know, it fluctuates. So its tier list is good for conversation and opinions, to get other people's opinions like that. But I myself personally, I don't really look at that. Something I would make my decision based on picking a character, you know. So that's good.
So let me touch on the that was the internal.
Right.
Let me touch on the external. So to create a better environment, I think that what we do now as high level players, we bash, in a sense, low level players. Oh man, why are you playing this? You're bad. No fundamentals. Well, can we please understand that everybody had to start? We all started from somewhere, right? So we should be more welcoming to to newer players, teaching them fundamentals, if they're willing to learn, or if you just see that they're playing for fun, play for fun, Just you want all different angles coming into the fighting game world. Fun players, casual players, competitive players, and stuff like that. Some casual players become competitive players as they continue to play. So we got to be more welcoming to people in the fighting games community. So
Good answer. I like that. So right now, are you currently sponsored? If so, how's that experience been? And if not, is there anybody on your radar that you wouldn't mind being sponsored to as far as fighting games?
I'm not sponsored. I'm not quite sure who I want to be sponsored by. I mean, since my name is Juggernaut, hopefully I might get lucky that they say, man, you're sponsored by, I don't know, let's see, Marvel? Right. Marvel, something like that, kind of just saying Juggernaut, give me a whole lot of apparel that's Juggernaut-ish,
You picked a good name.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, have a whole X-Men series, but the Juggernaut has a big human, like stuff like that, man. So it'll probably be something Marvel-based. If they do that, that would probably be my go-to if I can. So
I feel like it's only a matter of time before it gets everywhere where they'll have some type of investment in esports and potentially sponsored. But if they would, Juggernaut would be the running candidate, in my opinion, the unstoppable Juggernaut,
Yeah.
That's what's up. So now, as far as, the FGC community and fighting games in general, like, what would you say your weakness is and what would you say your strengths are in fighters?
I say my strengths are, man, I have a solid fundamental base, probably from the times I played with my brother. He used to kind of get on me, like stop jumping and stuff like that. So I had them there. I just never grinded the game. So my fundamentals, I'm good at anti-airing. I'm good at, mind games, in a sense. My weaknesses is, man, when I see something that's not supposed to happen in a way, and I guess, or something that I don't know how to deal with, it tilts me. And once I become tilted, it kind of breaks my focus of my fundamentals a little bit. So, man, I might anti-air a little slower, or I might react or drop a combo because I'm tilted about something I got hit with. So, like an example would be, we're fighting, we're having this competitive match, and then you do a move, it hits me behind you. I'm tilted. I'm now mad because that shouldn't have happened, but I shouldn't let that throw me off or throw off my whole game. I should keep it moving and just know that happens.
That's a good one because that usually happens with me too sometimes when you play the game long enough and you think you know the game in and out, and then you have a matchup and something happens, you'd be like, hold up. And then instead of you just focusing on the match, during that match, you're trying to figure out how that even happened in the first place. Mm-hmm. So now your mind is not focused on the actual game itself in the match. You're focusing on that last input that happened or that last, command throw or whatever sequence that happened, and you're trying to figure that out when you really should be focusing on the match itself. That kind of can get you distracted. That's a good one to work on as far as your weakness and stuff like that. And the fact that you know that verbally, I feel like you can overcome that. Moving forward in the competitive scene. Once you recognize, and that's why I asked players who are doing these interviews, like, what's your weakness, what's your strengths? Sometimes you don't know unless somebody asks you and you verbally say it, and you're like, you know what? Now that I know, I can work on that to become a better player. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. Now, as far as fighting games, all the fighting games that are out there, when players hear the name Juggernaut, what fighting game comes up? What is Juggernaut known for in the fighting game community?
Gotta be KI, Killer Instinct. That's my game. That's the game that when I started to understand I'm good at fighting games, that's the game I really dug into. I mean, as tournaments go, I'm known. If I go in the chat, hey, it's Juggernaut, man. He's this player, he plays this player. Like, it makes me feel good that I put in that time so people recognize my skills with those characters that I use.
Right.
Gotta be Killer Instinct.
Good choice, man. Good choice. That's a very I see that the community is very faithful in that game. And to be honest, it's probably one of the most it's in my top 10, to be honest, of all time. from the artwork, the music, the mechanics, just everything. Very, very strong game. Now, here's the fun part here. So, like, what would you say annoys you the most in the FGC?
So I kind of touched on it a little bit about like the tier list. It's the high level player sense of intimidation. I don't like that when you can feel it anywhere. Oh my goodness, it's this player, and then you get like people get this. Oh, I don't want to play them. What do you mean you don't want to play them? I want to go play them. I'm excited. I want to go see what mind games that they're going to use on me, or what mind games I can get away with on them. We're coming from two different angles, so I don't like the fear that people show sometimes just because they see a high level player or a sponsored player. Be as hungry as you are when you're sitting on your own couch. Right. Be as hungry as you are to get that win, and when you're sitting right next to the person or playing them online or something, be just as hungry.
It's that fear factor. And, I tell my esports athletes all the time, when we're competing and stuff, they either look at their players' ranks or they know the gamer tag because he's well known and whatnot. And I'm like, look, guys, you got to treat everybody with the same threat level overall. I don't care what your rank is, what your gamer tag is, where, don't take yourself out of the game before you even play, because if you're telling yourself you're going to lose or you have that fear factor, you're going to go into the match with that mentality, So just treat everyone the same, regardless of who they are. Let them prove to you that they are who they say they are. Don't just voluntarily get into that fear factor mindset. So that's a good one. That's a good one. So now, what do you like the most about the FGC?
Man, people, they're rough on you. They are rough on you, and especially beginners. But man, they do kind of, once you get past that initial phase, it's all open arms, man. They're really nice. Once you initially get past the every game has kind of like that toxicity. But once you get past that, they're just nice. They're willing to bump you up to the next level. You might feel like you're like level 5. Hey, man, you could have somebody that's level 7. They go sit there and grind with you until you guys get to this like a certain level. So I like that. We're all in here together, and we're all in this community to make it grow into a bigger thing that we can even imagine. So we're learning, we're learning, but we're also, I see compassion, I see commitment. I see all of it, and it's a very nice community to be a part of.
Absolutely, and it's like in my other interviews, it's a family in itself. Mm-hmm. Like I consider you one of my best friends outside of gaming, and gaming is just what we have in common to make that connection, to bridge together, and then outside of gaming, we still have the life connection as well. So you make pretty much family through FGC, It's not extended family, but it's family nonetheless. And then within the community, it branches off into other families. And you'd be surprised how many people I've run into where I would know the same person, but me and him have never met. It's like, such and such. And I'm like, yeah, I know such and such. I've been to this tournament. We used to kick it in the hotel afterwards, casually. He was like, I was there. I was like, what? Mm-hmm. And it's just like, you don't make that connection until you finally meet up with each other and everything. And then it's a light bulb and everything comes together. But definitely the commodity, as far as the FGC, the learning curves, we're there to help each other as well. Who wants to grow. Like I'm always welcoming to anybody who's interested in, fighting games. Or if I say, hey, give this game a try, and I look at them and I see that they have potential unconsciously, like they're doing stuff that's really good in the fighting game that they don't know yet. I'm like, oh, okay, and then you start grooming them from there and showing them. And the next thing you know, they pretty much blossom, man. Everybody blossoms within that community. So
the biggest smile that gets put on my face is when you're like training somebody, I guess you'll say, and they start doing things they start doing things that's kind of like, hey man, hold on, I didn't show you that. Like
They start evolving on their own without you even. They testing you as you're testing them. Absolutely. They're like, wait, I didn't show you that.
Right, where that come from, man? Hold on, I gotta now we're starting mind games, and that's
right.
That's the whole different level,
Exactly. That's good stuff, man. Good stuff. So, to end the interview on a high note, I always ask my interviewers, top 3 fighters of all time. What would you say your top 3 would be?
This hardest question.
It usually is most.
So I don't think I mentioned this, but MK9 was actually the game that I played and got humbled in. Not the game that I grinded the most. I was KI, but that was the game I got humbled in. MK9 has some qualities in it that I just can't ignore. KI is probably my first. KI, Street Fighter 4, I did MK9. Those 3 games that I think I could have played forever.
Right.
I can play forever. Street Fighter 4 is still being played.
Oh my God, it's so fun.
KI is still being played. MK9 is not being played as much, but you can still find people on there. They're still playing it.
Yeah.
Still streaming it. So
that's usually how you find the longevity of certain games. Like the fans know what games are fun, regardless of what's being aired or gets the most airtime outside of it. But like you said, like you can always find people playing Street Fighter 4, Killer Instincts. Some of the older games, you'd be surprised. You pop them in and you'd be like, whoa, I just popped it in and you got like a match already within like 5 seconds. What? Like there's no real dead air in those games, man. They're still pretty strong. And it just shows you the value of, fighting games in general. It's not like your typical other like platform games where you play the first one, then the second one comes out and you never play the first one again. You're just stuck on the second one now. And then when the third one comes out, you never play the second or the first one again. Fighting games, they're not like that, And it's like, no matter how old the game may be, there's always new tech somehow, some way, out of nowhere. Like, man, this game's been out for 20 years. And then now somebody's discovering something new.
Yeah.
And it just opens up the doors again for people to play. So it's awesome, man. That's a good top 3 for that, man. So that actually concludes my interview, man. I appreciate you coming through, man. During this rough time we got going on. It's 2021 right now, so hopefully we'll shed some light and they're starting to do more live events against structural maybe. I got a couple ideas for mine on how I would do it, but hopefully everything will start opening back up and we can get back to what the FGC is good for best is, their live events, man, the commodity, the groups coming together, man, and we'll see how that goes, man. But other than that, man, I appreciate you from coming through.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, this was great, man. It's good stuff, man. I don't know when you're going to take your Christmas tree down.
Hey, I was thinking about it, man. I'm just like, I'm scared. Once you take it down, you got to go back to work.
Holidays over,
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming through, man. And, I'll probably be hitting you up pretty soon anyways for some gaming. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is your boy, 99 Cent McFury and Juggernaut. And we are out.
Peace out.
Peace out.